Hey, what's up? So, I just wanted to talk a little bit about diet. So, I have been on a journey with diet. I have been a fruitarian for a lot of years, a decade, and also took a stab at raw veganism. Certainly been a vegan for over a decade, I don't know. Anyways, and so I ate this way, say like as a fruitarian, eating mostly fruit, and then and the thing is, there's a lot of things that are classified as fruit, like avocados and squashes and tomatoes. There's a lot of things that are fruit, nuts and seeds and stuff like that, and like are fruit. Fruit is anything that a plant that grows that has a flower that creates a structure which contains seeds. I mean, so fruit. But so the thing was, a while ago, I reached a point where I was tired and I didn't know what it was, if it was like vitamin D, and that might have something to do with it, but I was exhausted and I was struggling with my yoga practice and with going to the gym and stuff like that. And so I went and saw some people who do live blood analysis and as well as iridology. And when I went and told them everything that I'm doing, it's like I do all of this stuff and it's like I don't know what I'm doing wrong. They're like, well, based on what they saw in my blood and whatnot, they're like, it's like you're not eating enough protein. I mean, like, you're eating way too much sugar and not enough protein. I would eat like a hand of bananas a day, and then so yeah, lots of sugar. But the thing is like, bananas aren't from around here. So why would you want to eat something that comes from 5,000 miles away, that from a climate that is nothing like where you're at? I buy bananas now one at a time. That's it. I still enjoy them, but they're not a staple in my diet, just like other fruits, just like granadilla. I still buy them, but I don't buy a basket full of them and think that they're going to provide me with all of the sustenance that I need in order to thrive in my life. I mean, here in Canada in the summertime, yeah, I eat way more fruit. I find my diet changes through the seasons, but say now we're in wintertime, it's important for me to eat things that will support me here in this climate. And so I eat as much local, dirt grown, organic fruits and vegetables that I can get. Not so much fruits as in sweet things, but I mean, I eat one meal a day pretty much, and I make sure that it's always heavy in carbohydrates or in protein. I mean, it's either like potatoes or rice or beans or lentils, things like that, and food combined with things that because it's like not everything goes well together. And I find it's just the worst when you sit down and you make a big meal and it looks good and it tastes good, but then it gives you indigestion, it gives you bloating and gas and stuff like that, and you don't feel awesome. I think that you want the food that you eat to be fueling your activities, not just tasting good and looking nice and smelling nice, right? So there is this chart of food combinations, and it's tricky because you have to be like, okay, well, why can't I have avocado and beans? Why can't I have like all of these different things? And it's like, well, because they just don't combine well together. I don't know. I mean, yeah, like anyways, there's a chart, and I have found over the years, the more that I keep this chart in mind, the better I feel and the more that I get out of the meals that I eat. And yes, it has changed the way that I eat, but I mean, for the better, right? Because I would rather feel good and be healthy than just enjoy shoveling food down my gullet. Yeah. And so, yeah, that's the thing. You know, one of the things that they told me was like to stop eating brown rice because it's just too hard on my system. I'm a person who has a sensitive system, and that stuff is no good. Same thing with whole wheat. I won't touch the stuff. I avoid brown rice and whole wheat, and I feel so much better because it's just too abrasive for a person who has a very sensitive system. And so, yeah, and just eating as much local food as possible and eating the one meal a day. I do supplement with like a protein drink, say once a week in general, which is like 2 scoops, so like 40 grams of protein. And I make my own mix, so it has added spirulina and hemp and pumpkin in there. And it's also, I use a couple of different protein powders that I mix together. One is a whole raw organic everything all in one, and then the other one but it has no sweetener in it, so I use another one that's just a couple of things, but then it has monk fruit in it, and then that is the sweetener. That so it's like this big mix that I make of stuff. And then also creatine, I have found works. I've done my research on creatine and it seems to be good stuff. I mean, they've been testing it for 20 years now, and it seems to, you know, like the body has 3 energy systems. One of them is to do with circulating sugars, carbohydrates and whatnot. One of them I think is fats, and then the other one is creatine, and it is something that is in your cells that that the cells use, but we don't get a lot of it from our food. And so if you can supplement this stuff, and it for myself, I've noticed a benefit in it. I don't take it every day, but I do take it regularly. And then there's also another thing that I take. It's called it's an adaptogenic blend of like herbs and roots and stuff like that, which is helps the body to manage stress. So it doesn't help you to manage stress. Like that's on you. You know, you have, the only way to manage stress is through a healthy lifestyle, through perspective, through, you know, knowledge, wisdom, experience, how you relate to things, and, you know, how you find peace with it all. That's how you manage stress. But your body has to deal with the stress that you put it through. And there are certain compounds, roots and herbs and things like that, that help your body to, adaptogenic compounds are things that your body uses to achieve homeostasis. It's like not specific, but it just helps overall. Whereas like a lot of products that people take are specific. It's like, oh, it helps with this or it helps with that. So it's like, and I have found these things to be very beneficial in my life. And so, and I can't see anything wrong with taking them, you know, until I reach a point where I don't have such a workload, where I don't need to, exert myself so much in order to earn a paycheck, or in order to balance out my life so that I have, so that I can do everything that I need to do and accomplish my goals, right, and whatnot. So yeah, that's a thing. Another thing that has become a thing for me is juicing, because it's like, so on an OMAD diet, 1 meal a day, it's good to supplement with things like a green formula. I have that essentially mixed in with my like all the green stuff mixed in with my protein drink. And then I also take those, creatine and then this adaptogenic thing once in a while, right? And then, but then there's not a lot of, like, with one meal a day, you want to eat something that is quite substantial. So you don't want to eat something that has too much fresh vegetables and things like that in it. You want all of the food to combine well, so you can't be eating a bunch of fruit. And that was one of the hardest things about embracing this diet, is that you have to essentially give up the pleasure of eating breakfast and lunch in favor of having lots of energy and the body rejuvenating itself and thinking clearly. Which it's a trade, right? Because they're both enjoyable. If you don't need those things, I guess, I don't know. I mean, just, you can just do whatever you want. But for a person who's trying to, or making an effort to take the next step forward in the progressive evolution of their life, it helps to be thinking clearly and to have lots of energy and to feel good. And so but so this is the thing, it's like, but I love fruits and vegetables and things like that. So the thing is, the problem is with them is that they take up a lot of volume, and if you're only going to eat one meal a day, you don't want things in your stomach that are comprised of a lot of cellulose, indigestible fibers, and and water content. And certainly things that won't combine with the other things that you're eating. And so, and like I said, I cycle between protein heavy meals and carbohydrate heavy meals, all of it vegan, of course. But so then another thing that has become a wonderful addition to diet is juicing, and it's something that I've done over the years for different reasons. But on a one meal a day diet, it's great because because there's days where there's creatine, there's the days where there's the adaptogenic herb blend, but then on other days, there's some days that there's neither of those things, but sometimes it's nice to have a juice. And I make a carrot, apple, beet, and ginger and lemon juice, and I never get tired of drinking it. I juice once a week. And I drink, it's one of those, jug thingies that are like yay big, and I absolutely love it. And I noticed that I was on a path for a little while where I was neglecting my health in a sense, and I got dehydrated, and I could tell my skin was dry and everything was dry. And then it's like, okay, how to rehydrate. And I've noticed for myself that, just drinking water, it doesn't seem to do that. Water, for me, it just flushes me out. And that's not hydrating. Whereas like after making a juice, I think it's because the water molecules, they're smaller, because water H2O exists in clusters. It's not just like, one molecule. There's these clusters of H2O, and when it comes out of the tap or even out of a filter, I have a beautiful Berkey filter. It's still tap water that's been filtered, and the clusters are relatively large, so your body needs to break them down in order to extract the essential nutrients, because water is, it's, I don't know, it's a nutrient, I think. Anyways, so the point is in fruits and vegetables, in that it's in a much the clusters are much smaller, so it's a lot more bioavailable, and it's much easier to get hydrated. And for myself, after drinking one juice, I noticed the next day that my body was just instantly hydrated. So it's just like, to me, surviving winter here in Canada, juicing is a part of it. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, and with all of this stuff too, I mean, I've talked about it before. The 6 principles for perfect health: oxygen, hydration, exercise, stress reduction, cleansing, detoxing, lightening diet. I mean, yeah, but what was it? There's this thing, another thing too is the blood type diet. I mean, the people that I talked to, they said, just take a look at it and think about it. And I have certainly found that, based on my blood type, which is a blood type A lot of the advice that they give makes sense. And some of it, I think as long as you're doing most things right in your lifestyle, if you have a holistic, kind of lifestyle, as long as you are exercising and doing yoga and taking some time to relax and allow your nervous system to reset, and meditating when you can, taking time to calm the mind and to not be reactive. And if you're educating yourself and you're eating healthy and you're drinking water and you're taking time for yourself and you're not isolating yourself, and as long as you're doing most things right, you can get away with a little bit of, I don't know, some things like, on my diet, I'm not supposed to eat kidney beans. And it's just like, what? I just eat them anyways. Maybe they're not as good as some other beans, but at least for me, but I like them. And I've never found any problem with eating them. And so until I do, I'm just going to keep doing that. Yeah. So, yeah, that's basically where I've come with diet. And so it was a tough thing to embrace eating cooked foods, a lot, because it's something that some people make out like it's just not good for you. And then some people who've been raw vegan for a long time, and then they start eating cooked foods, not like, bags of potato, like not highly processed stuff. But even then, it's so tricky because, I've eaten, when I eat stuff that's highly processed, I don't suffer. Because it's almost like, because it's just very easy for me to digest, whether it's, like white bread, your body doesn't have to work to break it down. It's like, no, you're not getting nutrients, other nutrients from it, but it doesn't kill you or whatever, as long as it's not full of poisons and toxins and garbage and whatnot. I mean, yeah, it's tricky, like I'm just sharing this stuff because it's how I have navigated diet over the last bunch of years. And I think that the way that I eat now, which is I eat with the seasons and I intermittent fast for a good portion of every single day. And I, what does Hippocrates say? Everything in moderation, including moderation. So, taking, it's okay to eat breakfast once in a while, not being too strict about stuff. And I mean, the only thing, yeah, that's it. I don't think I need to go on about anything else. I mean, that's what I learned in the last little while, but I'm doing really well, I suppose. And that's what I wanted to share. I stopped making videos for a while because I was exhausted. And when I looked in the mirror, I could tell. I felt like crap. I looked like crap. I looked like I got hit by a bus and I didn't know what I was doing wrong. And it was depressing. It was aggravating. It was annoying. It was frustrating because despite everything that I was doing, it's like it's like it just wasn't enough. And then that's when I had to go back and re-examine some things and ask for help. Be like, hey, can you give me your perspective? And that was a tricky thing too, because you go to a doctor, you know, a lot of doctors, even like holistic doctors, are like, oh, you got to start eating meat or something like that, or oh, you gotta do this or do that. And it's just like, you know, people try to push their agendas on you, and it's just like, well, no, that's, you know, I don't think that yeah. But so then, like, finding real doctors was tough. Like, it's lucky that I met this couple years ago when I lived in the city, and they used to live in another part of the city, sort of, and went and saw them, and they did this live blood analysis and iridology. They look at your eyes and they tell you everything that's going on in your system, and you're just, when they explain it to you, you're just like, wow, yeah, that is basically what I'm experiencing and have been going through. And so, like, you know, and it costs what, $200 to go see these people, for them to put, they take some of your blood, they put it on a few little things, and then they put it under a microscope that has a camera on it, and then they bring it up on a big screen TV so that you can see everything that's going on. You can see parasites in your blood, because, you know, compared to the size of like a red blood cell or a white blood cell, a parasite is like the size of Godzilla compared to a Japanese person. You know, it's like this enormous creature, crazy looking. And then, but you see them and it's like, okay, you have parasites, you need to deal with this. Or you see how many white blood cells are in your system. You know, for me, you know what they said was, your blood is super clean. You're like an 8.5 out of 10 clean. But you're also lean, like you're emaciated, you're out of energy, and you're tired, because yeah, you can eat just fruit for a period of time and get away from it, but with your lifestyle and with the things that, you know, they're like, you have worn yourself thin. And after 10 years of doing that, it's like, you need to start eating a more wholesome diet that has way more like complex carbohydrates and way more fats and way more protein and stuff like that, and then navigate all of that stuff too. And I did, you know, and you know, I tell everybody, nobody takes my advice, but I always say, it's like, you know, like, it's the best $200 you can ever spend is to find a real doctor, somebody who has zero interest in anything other than giving you the tools that you need to essentially achieve a greater degree of health than you're currently experiencing. Because yeah, and it has nothing to do with like you know, selling you products or getting you on some potion or pill or powder or whatever, right? I mean, it's not that some of those things can't supplement a healthy diet, but it's like none of them, they don't replace it. You know, it's like something that I tell people in my yoga classes. It's like, yoga does not replace resistance training. It doesn't replace cardiovascular exercise. It doesn't replace a healthy diet. You have to do all of these things all at the same time, or else it's like the missing piece of the puzzle and the big picture falls apart, essentially. So yeah, what a great thing it is to find a real doctor. And you know, when I left after my couple-hour consultation, I said, okay, well, they said, yeah, hopefully we'll see you again in 6 years, 10 years. Because all you need to do is follow the advice that they give you. I mean, they share with you everything that they got. And then it's just like, you know, the rest is up to you. You got to take it with a grain of salt. You got to, you know, navigate all of the stuff. And I don't know, but for me, it made a world of a difference. And I recovered my health. I recovered, yeah, my energy, my vigor, my vitality, you know, my virility, everything. And so that is why I am sharing this thing with you. Yeah. I realized that I was wrong and that for my body, for my constitution, I do not thrive on a raw food diet. And I can't just eat fruit. Maybe it works for some people. And you have to be careful because on YouTube, there's so many people saying, oh, this is it, you only got to do this. It's like, no, you only do have to do this. That works for you. I tried it, I gave it my all and it didn't work. I gave it a decade of my life and now I do something else and I'm doing much, much better.